The thing about the accelerators is something really exciting for me. One of the top accelerators is the Odisea one, the one that you're running, man.
I always just think this discourse of like the first, there was like, who was the first, like ZK roll up, who was the first, right? I think there's just something like really sexy and appealing about being the first to anything, right? Hey, what are the main challenges that you're facing as a founder from the region? And one of the biggest, 91% of the founders that answered our survey said that raising capital was the hardest problem they had when it came to taking their companies to market.
Really, really exciting. Coinbase gains approval to launch in Argentina. Perfect. So we're live. Welcome to another Frontera episode. Kush, how are you, my man? Nice cap.
Thank you, Bitcoin Mafia, baby. I'm here in Salvador. You can see a bit of the volcano there in the background. But yeah, man, I'm here for a Bitcoin conference. I don't usually spend too much time in the Bitcoin world, but there's so much going on here in El Salvador that I think it's only necessary to be here and be engaging with the ecosystem and all of the energy that's happening here. Lots of Bitfinex, Tether action going on as well. So yeah, man, feeling super happy to be here and excited for what's happening and looking forward to sharing some insights so far.
It seems that when you're traveling, I'm at home, and when I'm traveling, you're at home. We are in this dynamic of getting a lot of travel around the American continent this year, man.
It's fun. I can't complain.
Perfect. So today we're gonna talk a lot about different topics. We're gonna talk about different accelerators. Bitso launched a new accelerator that we're gonna analyze. Also Coinbase in Argentina. Some news about NuBank. And the thing about the accelerators is something really exciting for me. If you haven't already, if you're listening to this, you're part of Frontera's community and you haven't already subscribed to our newsletter, you should go right now and subscribe. We have people from the Ethereum Foundation, the Solana Foundation, Binance, and several other leaders understanding what's happening in Latin America. And this week's newsletter was about the different accelerators popping up around the region. And one of the top accelerators is the Odisea one, the one that you're running, man. And the news this week is that Bitso launched the Push. That is an accelerator focused on stablecoins. The way that they titled this is the first global accelerator dedicated to stablecoins, crypto, and blockchain-driven companies and ideas set to impact the future of Latin America. Okay, they claim to be the first, but they are not the first. They are literally the fourth accelerator. The first one that I got to notice was Outlier Ventures Latam cohort. Then it was the one of Crecimiento. Then Accelera. So give us a little bit of insight of what's happening in the region and why are there so many top accelerators coming to reality in Latam.
I always just think this discourse of like the first, there was like, who was the first, like ZK roll up, who was the first, right? I think there's just something like really sexy and appealing about being the first to anything, right?
Yeah. But it's also kind of lame when you're not the first one and you claim it.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. Anyways, that's a conversation for another time. The point here is that why so many accelerators? I think it's because people are like, oh my God, Latin America is a huge, really exciting market. There's tons of opportunities here, but like, why aren't we seeing more startups coming out of the region? Oh shit, there's all these different problems. I mean, we did some research a while ago where we interviewed 100 founders from Latin America, and we basically wanted to understand, hey, what are the main challenges that you're facing as a founder from the region? And one of the biggest, 91% of the founders that answered our survey said that raising capital was the hardest problem they had when it came to taking their companies to market. Raising capital is just sort of the tip of the iceberg. There's all of these other kind of facets that precede raising capital, right? So it's like, have you found the right PMF? Have you developed the right product? Have you got all the right regulatory frameworks and so on and so forth? And then you can raise capital, right? It's not like, hey, I have an idea and oh, by the way, where's my $5 million pre-seed check? Rather, there's like all these sort of building blocks. And I think accelerators are really good at sort of prepping and giving people access to the right knowledge, the right ecosystems, the right kind of resources as well, to be able to kind of fast track a lot of their development, right? It's the premise of accelerators too, right? So I think that that's why there are so many accelerators. Latin America, high PMF, there's a delta between the number of builders that we're seeing in the region and the market demand, right? And there's just some quote unquote arbitrage opportunity there that I think a lot of people are really excited to sort of capitalize on. And I think it's great, man. Like, I think the more plurality of accelerators that are coming into the region, the better. I think, it just creates a more engaged ecosystem, more robust way of supporting these founders. It also allows people to take a very serious next step in their journey as a builder. I mean, you guys just went through Outlier. Quick reflections, thoughts, insights on that. I know Bando just had a really exciting pivot. So why don't we talk about what you got out of Outlier and perhaps how that's linked to this recent pivot you guys just announced?
Yeah. So I completely agree with you that there are a lot of exciting problems in LATAM. And I think that that's the fertile ground to develop startups. And I think that localized accelerators, one of the things that excite me the most is that I think that for the first time in crypto, I'm seeing this founder ecosystem regionally. In the past, we've seen it localized in Argentina and Brazil, and now it's a regional thing all across Latin America. And our experience in Outlier was really good. I think one of the most interesting thing is the quality of mentors that we were able to meet. It also helped us validate a lot our thesis on the payments protocol. We also got introduced to several really interesting clients that we're about to announce a couple of integrations there. And the first time when OB announced their accelerator was around July last year, so almost 8 months ago, something like that. And when I saw that, it was really exciting because they announced this program with Morgan Creek Digital, that it's a reputable VC in the industry. And then we saw the thing of Acelera, Crecimientos, Accelerator, now Bitso. It's really, for me, it's really encouraging that there are many different programs happening. And I don't know, there will be 70 startups, 60 new startups. And I think that we'll have a couple out of these programs that make it through. And that's the way that we should think about the business, and we should think about startups. A lot will fail, but that's progress in the region. In your experience, what has been the most exciting thing about running a localized accelerator, also with a lot of partners that you have? I think that not because you are my co-host and friend, but you might have the most relevant set of mentors in all the programs that are out there.
We have 65 plus mentors for Acelera. It is an insane number of people, from Griff Green, who was one of the early contributors to the DAO that got hacked, through to Kyle Becker, who was a previous kind of researcher at Onyx, which is JP Morgan's blockchain, Robinson Berkeley from Wormhole, co-founder. Literally, like, I could spend the entire podcast talking about how amazing the advisors for Accelera are. What does that mean? One, we're imparting kind of incredible wisdom and insights from the best builders in crypto, and being able to share that to these very early stage but incredibly exciting, I'm so excited. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this podcast, but just incredible builders, man. Like, I'm so bullish on these teams. It's crazy. And so one, just like the insights and the knowledge and the wisdom. Two is also this capacity to also get tapped into their networks, right? And get a sense for, like, hey, how do these very deep crypto native sort of folks operate? Who are the people they can put me in touch with? And then lastly is, like, what opportunities will arise from that, right? So I think that's one of the key things. From what I've seen across all the other programs that have been publicly announced, we have probably the most stacked group of advisors. And I'm super grateful for everyone who has been contributed to this program in some capacity or another. You're one of those advisors as well, right? So it just speaks to the quality of talent that we have coming on. But yeah, like, I guess, where do you see the future of these early stage builders going? Like, what can we do to get more builder energy and more early stage builders, like, taking their products to market, not just like tinkering? Because I think there's a lot of, like, people that just go to a bunch of freaking hackathons and they build things for like 2 days, and then they're like, oh, next hackathon. All well and good. But if we're optimizing for real products, building real solutions for real people, how do we create more of a pipeline and more of these products emerging in the space?
I think that part of the key element to do that is that we need to create founders, not only hackers. And that's a different set of skills, I think. I think that one of the most important founder skills is relentlessness and kind of ingenuity. In the sense that you think it's a classical thing. I really love this meme that we started this company not because it was easy, but because we thought it was gonna be easy. And having that mindset is relevant. I also see a lot of people in the community that are hackers becoming founders. I think that that's a global thing happening in developing countries. The other day I was listening to a podcast of the Alliance DAO guys, and Imran was talking about the same thing in India. A lot of hackers trying to be founders, and a lot of these hackers fail in the process because maybe they don't have the relentlessness. Raising capital, it's not fun. It's not a fun job. You need to talk to a bunch of people, get a ton of feedback, get a ton of rejection. So you need to be relentless. So what do we need? I think that we need also more founders. Like the first thing that I think that we need is examples of people that having gone through the steps that you're starting. One of the key recommendations I can give to founders is get a founder friend that is 1 or 2 years ahead of you. That's it. That helps you a lot. For example, when I was starting Bando, maybe around 8 months ago, I talked with Fer, the founder of DollarApp, and dude, he was just so compassionate and helpful. He went through a process of founding a company 3 years ago. That was not that long ago. And now they are crushing it with DollarApp, and the conversation was really fruitful. Obviously, I cannot share a lot of what we spoke about. It was just inspiring to see the path of someone that had a similar career. He came out of Revolut. I came out of Bitso, these big fintech companies, big crypto companies. And having someone that it's a couple of months ahead of you helps you a lot, I think. And dude, I wanna talk a little bit about this specific accelerator of Bitso. So they are launching it. It's called, as I said, it's called the Push. I'd love to get your takes on it. So they are investing up to $250,000, $50,000 on Bitso services. The jury are Daniel Vogel, the CEO, founder and CEO of Bitso, Imran Khan, general manager of Bitso Business, and Juanita Rodriguez, the country manager of Bitso Colombia. What do you think about these programs? These big companies, the largest crypto company in Latin America, launching an accelerator for stablecoins, for startups to use their infrastructure. What's your take as someone that launched an accelerator?
I think this is a FAFO experiment, to be honest, right? And it's like, hey, we have this massive business and we want to become a platform in a similar way that Coinbase and Base has a whole bunch of different core infrastructure that they offer to people across the landscape. It sort of feels like Bitso is experimenting with how do we provide infrastructure services to exciting new companies and work very closely with them through this program and then see where we can scale that. So I think that's like an awesome opportunity for them to basically do just that and have a very close relationship with these teams, and not only have a close relationship, but actually have a sort of material stake with what they're doing as well. I think the really cool thing about these different programs is sort of a plurality of different kind of target founders, stage where they're at, quality of the advisors, and so on, right? So I think it's good. I think it's a net good, and the more experimentation and throwing things, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, the more we're gonna move this ecosystem forward, right? It's power laws, right? And it's like not everyone's gonna win, but the ones that do are gonna absolutely crush it.
Yep, and an important thing that I see is evident every day that the most important business for Bitso is business, like the institutional side, because this is an accelerator by Bitso Business. And I don't know if you follow Bitso in LinkedIn and in social media, but they push a lot. They're pushing a lot for this institutional play. So that just make me wonder.
Like on the Bitso point, by the way, Ab, like we just did an event yesterday with Bitso on AI agents, for example, right? And it's like, okay, Bitso's like clearly trying to, sort of feels like they're trying to experiment here, right? And so like AI agents and accelerator, like what's going on, right? It seems like maybe, you know, Daniel or the leadership team is like, hey, we need to get into war mode. We can't be this like web 2.5, like very static business. We gotta push to the frontier of innovation here, right? And I think that's sort of what's happening here.
Yeah, I hope so. I think that uh, Bitso has a critical part, a critical role in our industry in Latin America. So every time that they try to push, it's a good thing. Also, like on the downside, I don't know if you saw this, but they deprecated their Web3 wallet recently. So they are part of what you say about find out. What's that thing? Find out and fuck around. Fuck around and find out. Part of that approach is that they, like anyone that does that, they're gonna fuck around. Like eventually, they're gonna fail at stuff, and it's important to fail. I encourage failure because obviously they've learned a lot. They sunset their Web3 wallet. And that's another point that I see that it's evident that they're focusing on Bitso Business. And I think that's a smart move.
Yeah, no, I think, and the wallet piece is super interesting. Why shut down a wallet and then go, actually, we're going to focus on our infrastructure? Like, I was having this conversation yesterday with some friends who are working on a payments and somewhat like neo-banking platform here that uses crypto. But here was our debate, and I would love your takes on this. They were saying that global players will never succeed as well in crypto, will never succeed as well as local players because Latin America has demonstrated that they prefer local players, and they were citing the success case of Rappi and Glovo and all these local, like the Uber of Latam, the, you know, whatever, you know, click your thing and shopping gets delivered to your house, like platform, you know. Basically, we've taken all these models that work in North America and Europe, and we said we want to just like copy paste pretty much the same functionalities, but really localize it. And like Rappi has done really well, again, Glovo and all these other, you know, NuBank and so forth, right? Which is like the Revolut of Latin America. But with crypto exchanges, my take was that I don't think you can extrapolate the same logic to something that has a high dependency on liquidity of markets. Because it's not the same to say, oh, users prefer Rappi over Uber Eats, because yeah, it makes sense that Rappi has larger network effects because they're from the region. But when users go to swap on a DEX, they want the lowest slippage, right? And that's not necessarily something that a local player can provide.
Yeah, I completely agree with your take because thinking on the same terms, what's Rappi's and Uber's liquidity? The restaurants and the carriers, right? And in order to attract those and in order to acquire those, you need to have a lot of local knowledge. What's crypto's liquidity? It's money or assets. And I think that we've seen how local exchanges don't have the liquidity of global exchanges. I would say I would adjust this questioning on whoever gets the best connection to liquidity will win. Liquidity and user experience, obviously. If you have a crappy UX and great liquidity, you're gonna die. If you have crappy liquidity but amazing UX, you're also gonna die. So I think it's a really interesting play. So I think that there are a lot of interesting companies like Meru. Those guys, they're doing really cool things, and yeah, their close friends will have them eventually here in the pod. So I don't think that take of local players will play out. I think that we're figuring out, because I think it's a better example to compare global plays that don't depend on physical networks like Google or Google Maps. Why don't we have the Google Maps of Latam? Because it doesn't scale. I don't know, like the liquidity of maps is the information. It's data, bits, and they won.
But interestingly, Cacao which is the Google Maps of Korea has. You go to Korea and you try to use Google Maps, and it sucks. It has no information on there. But I think there's like some protectionist measures that are basically taking place there where Kakao's been able to succeed. And Kakao is now kind of this like super app in Korea. But I was surprised when I was in Korea. I tried using Google Maps. I was like, I can't find anything on this thing, right? And you're just so used to wherever you are in the world, you use Google Maps. By the way, just a quick note. One of our listeners who I met last night in El Salvador, I won't disclose their name, but someone was like, oh yeah, I listened to your podcast. And by the way, you know the screenshot you took of the Mexican App Store where it showed that Binance was the fourth most downloaded app? He was like, that same day, me and my team, we went on the App Store and we tried finding Binance on the fourth place, and it wasn't there. And so we came up with like the theory that, because that was your phone, right? That was your screenshot.
That was my screenshot. Yeah.
We, in the same way that like DeepSeek just shot up in App Store ratings in the US, for example. Like, I'm curious if you check your App Store now, right? We found it was at like 35th on the App Store in the Mexican. This guy was from Mexico, in the Mexican App Store. So yeah, it was just interesting to see that maybe there was, I don't know what was going on, but you know, we've seen like DeepSeek shot up and people are like, I don't know anyone using DeepSeek, right? So just the dynamics of like App Store ratings, just something to be questioned. But I wanted to just come back to that because it was just cool to like meet someone at a party last night and say like, oh, by the way, like in your podcast we did this, and like turns out it's not really there. What place is Binance at, by the way, on your App Store today?
Binance right now is at place 32 and Bitso is in place 37, like right now.
Yeah, so you know, what was going on that day, right?
Trump was going on. Trump was going on that day. That's why I took the screenshot, because obviously, if I don't know when this person went into the App Store, but these things are dynamic, and I assume they change hourly, and they should do some like pondering average or something like that to put apps on the top. And I went into the App Store because it was really interesting for me to understand how the Trump effect was messing up crypto's apps. Because if you go to the US store, like App Store, it was Coinbase, Robinhood, Cash App, all of these kind of crypto apps. So yeah, really interesting to see. I'd love to know when this person went, because these things are super dynamic, obviously. It's like, it's an algorithm at the end.
Yeah. By the way, Ab, we've got a few minutes left, and I know there's some really exciting news. Maybe we can just like speed run through the news.
Yeah, let's do this. So really, really exciting. Coinbase gains approval to launch in Argentina. Basically, they obtained a license. The headline says, Coinbase has received regulatory approval to launch in Argentina, where 5 million Argentinians use crypto daily. So the market with largest adoption in Latin America, Coinbase is coming for them. Binance is the leader in Argentina, but there's a ton of local competition. Lemon, Buenbit, Velo, a ton of really cool crypto apps. And what do you think about this? It's really exciting that Coinbase is focused in Brazil, in Latin America, and now they're going for Argentina. And they hired Matias Alberti, that was the COO of Buenbit. I texted him and he told me I cannot come on pods yet, but eventually I'd love to go. So your takes here.
Can you pull up the tweet that I sent? I think it was pretty funny. And it sort of goes back to like the previous conversation we were talking about with regards to will users naturally be drawn towards like centralized exchanges that are global or local. So Brian Armstrong, founder of Coinbase, basically quote tweeted, if you click on Brian's tweet, Brian Armstrong quote tweeted the announcement and said, Bienvenida Argentina, which is grammatically incorrect. And then Chelo, the founder of Lemon, quote tweeted that and said, no, bienvenido vos Argentina. And I love that. I think it just speaks so much to many different kind of layers of what this actually means for the region, and the different ways that like I think like the crypto ecosystem is digesting the news, because I think it is big, but there are sort of all sorts of implications with regards to how this affects local players as well. And I personally think it's like it's good to have global players, and I also think it's good to have local players, right? I don't think they're mutually exclusive, but I think we have to be strategic with how we engage with local actors.
Do you know this stinks? Do you know what's the stinkiness of this?
In what way?
It stinks to consolidation. There's gonna be a fuck ton of M&A in Latin America in the next 3 to 5 years. And that's really exciting for accelerators, like connecting the dots. Several of the companies that are going through these accelerator programs, some of them are going to get acquired. Obviously, I don't know any deals going on, but I totally see something like Coinbase buying Buenbit, or Kraken buying Velo, or I don't know. There's a ton of opportunity there to consolidate, kickstart with a license really fast, start dominating the market, and competition is the best thing for any market. So kudos for Coinbase landing in Argentina.
Yeah, props to them. And again, I think it just like turns up the heat for all the local players as well. And I'm excited to see kind of local players also like step it up and start figuring out. And I think maybe this is part of like Bitso strategy, right? Is maybe it's like, hey, these global players are engaging with us now. What is our edge? We need to push to like the frontier here. So I think it just pushes everyone to like be better ultimately, right? And so excited to see what unfolds there.
Yep. Yeah. Perfect. And the final news on NuBank. This is more a fintech news, but is really relevant to follow NuBank, the largest fintech company in Latin America, the largest bank, one of the largest banks in the region. They're planning to expand their global headquarters to the UK. And interesting pick, the UK. And obviously these are rumors, it's nothing confirmed. They are listed in a stock exchange in the US. So their stock trades there, and they're crushing it month over month. They're year over year, they're crushing it. They have over 100 million users already, and that's so crazy. That's, I don't know, 80% of the population of Mexico. Obviously, these users are distributed across Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico. But interesting moves, and I think that with the regulatory clarity coming to crypto on a global scale in the upcoming years, I think that NuBank will have a deep investment in crypto. And we're gonna see one of my predictions in the next 2 years. Obviously, NuBank is going to acquire a crypto company. I don't know who, I don't know when, but it'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to like NuBank is buying into the thesis that using stablecoins is just a better way of moving money around the world. And great, super happy to hear that. Excited to see them like really, really lean into this as well. And looking forward to seeing them just like continue to push the envelope, continue to really advance in the region as well, with leveraging crypto protocols. Like, when will I be able to take a loan out on Aave in NuBank, right? Like, that will happen at some point. Hot take, prediction, there you go. At some point, NuBank will have a DeFi protocol natively integrated within its application.
Yeah. I think that NuBank could be the largest playing implementing this, that it's the DeFi mullet. Basically, they will implement it because they have this large user base and they can leverage a lot. Fintech in the front, DeFi in the back. I'm super bullish on the DeFi mullet, and I think that definitely NuBank will be part of it. And man, really exciting things next week. Solana Apex. We need to chat if you're coming or not. We're gonna be there. There's gonna be really a ton of super cool chats. Bando, it's gonna be there. We just announced we're going global, so we're gonna participate on a panel there. And any final takes? Thank you for your time.
No, man, I think this is like just an exciting week. The Bitcoin conference starts today. It's called Plan B. Just funny name for a conference, but I will be here for the next while in El Salvador, and then hopping around the rest of Latin America as well. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the listeners as well. You know, the guy I was having a conversation with yesterday works on corporate affairs at a really large company as well. So it feels like we're actually reaching the audience that we're intending to here. So, you know, I hope this is useful. I know Ab and I just like love sitting down and jamming on this stuff. So we're looking forward to being able to continue to push this forward. And, you know, any feedback, thoughts, you know, Alpha, feel free to share it with us in Twitter or DM us on Telegram and so on. So let's do this.
Amazing. Perfect. Thank you. See you next week. Take care. Have a good one.